idea is always, and I'll get into more of the details. We won't get too much into the technique because there's going to be some debate on how exactly you're going to hold the glove and how exactly you're going to be receiving and framing the pitch. But the basic idea is to be working around the ball. So if the ball is here, right, the idea here is to use both the body and the arm and the glove to work around the ball, right? Now, part of the technique is to use a triangle, right? So imagine we have this triangle here, and here's how we're setting up, okay? Now, in Little League, we most likely will be setting up more center plate, okay? But the idea here is to use this triangle that we're gonna go out and then up and in. So imagine we're going from starting below the strike zone, and we're working up for one thing, but we're also working, if the ball is outside, we're working out and then up that triangle, okay? If the ball's a little bit high, we're working up that triangle and then back down into it. If the ball's on this side, we're working up that and back down into that triangle. So it's always working back into the triangle and bringing that ball back in. And what we're doing is we're trying to get around the ball and bring it back in, okay? And the subtle aspect is being able to use your body as well. So right now I'm not moving my arm, I'm just using my legs, okay? And whether you set up a little bit more outside here and then still bring it back in, right? I'm using my legs, so I'm not bouncing with my arm. What do I mean by bounce? What that means is if the ball is outside, I'm taking it out and then I'm bouncing it back in, right? That's too, what's the word I'm looking for?
Obvious.
Too obvious, okay? So we want to use the triangle technique where it's going to be boom, boom, right? And if we can use our body and our arm just a little bit so that we don't show as much hand movement. All of these subtle things start to take effect in the long run as the game goes. It seems like it's...
A lot of the players you're seeing the pros down on the knee.
Okay.
How are they going to rock the body if you're down on the knee?
I was going to get to that, but not until the block it. So you want me to go ahead and go on that discussion on the knee? Okay, so this is a big MLB thing. And now it's in college as well. And there's a debate, right? Whether a catcher should be on his knee or not on the knee. Now, I think on the knee is the absolute wrong thing to do. Number one, we're not major league players here. Even at the high school level, they shouldn't be doing that. If you're down on the knee, exactly, how can you rock slightly? Okay, what if you're down on the knee here and the ball's here? How are you gonna block that? Right? Is this what you're gonna do? No, you should be here to block, right? So once that knee is down, you're locked into that spot. And the second part of that is, and I get it because you want to get a little rest, you don't want to be working the legs too much, and you can start lower and then work up into the zone, which we'll talk about as well, okay? But you're locked down. At the higher levels, the college and the pro level, that's fine because the pitcher doesn't need the extra frame of reference. Now, what do I mean by that? They don't need that at that level. All they do is they see the glove and they're hitting a spot within 6 inches on both sides, wherever they're hitting it. But at the lower levels, look at how my shoulders are framed. Look at how my knee is framed. Okay, that frame to the pitcher is not appropriate. This is what they should be looking at. So they have this frame of reference, shoulder to shoulder, knee to knee, and then wherever you want to set up, right, is wherever you want to set up. So in my opinion, being on both feet, being in a ready position, which is both mentally and physically, when you're down on a knee, you're physically not quite ready. And if you're not quite physically ready, you're probably not quite mentally ready either. But when you're on both feet, everything's engaged, you're like, bam, I'm ready to drop on my knees, block, I'm ready to pop, I'm ready to do everything. If your knee's down, how are you gonna pop? So there's too many disadvantages when you're on the knee. We're not major league players.
Not yet.
Stick to the fundamentals. Yeah, not yet. Stick to the fundamentals, right? Catchers have to think like pitchers. They're just not doing the delivery of the ball, but they are like the pitcher. They have to earn that strike. They have to set it up so that pitcher can see a frame of reference, right? This is a whole different frame of reference. That almost looks like, bam, I have this to work with versus this kind of thing, right? Yeah. Okay, so we're gonna work on some of these drills, okay, on how to receive. But I want to keep it real simple. 2 things we're going to work on is we are going to work from below the zone and we're working up into it, and then we're going to work the triangle on both sides, right? Up high, boom, boom. Okay, so whatever way it is, we're working around, up that triangle, around, and then down. Okay, now something else that we're gonna work on is, and this is just plain receiving, and we should be working up and through, boom, boom, right? So the glove, the arm is going through the ball, and we're trying to dominate the ball, okay? We're not allowing the ball to come into us. We're dominating the ball. Bam, stick it, whatever it is, right? On that triangle. Okay, so that's the first part. So the first part is we will work on working upward and through it. So from below the zone, excuse me. And then we're gonna work the triangle. And then we're also going to work, okay, so let's talk about, let's see, do I wanna talk about this just yet before, because I wanna keep blocking separate. Okay, so let's talk about receiving the ball to pop and throw. Okay, so when we're working just to receive for a strike, we're working up and through the ball, or the triangle and up and around it, but the arm is always kind of moving forward into it, so we can dominate the ball. But that's when we're just receiving. But what happens when we're throwing? What we want to do is we're going to receive, and that's going to be the opposite. We're going to allow that to come in so we have some momentum as the ball hits. And that momentum is going to get us to tuck this elbow, almost like a glove tuck for pitchers. And we're bringing this right here so that we can transfer quickly out of this. So one of the drills we're going to do is to use the momentum of the ball and bring it right in here and then transfer. Bam, bam, okay? And trying to get quick at it. Okay, so that'll be another drill that we're going to do. And when we do this, we're going to line up all the drills for this. Okay. Let's see, do we want to, go ahead, question?
Sorry. Yeah, it's been a long time since I've taught, but I've been teaching catching for a little bit here, and I remember that one of the concepts was kind of like you're shaking hands, right? If it was a right-handed batter and you're shaking hands with your left hand on the inside part of the plate, so it's kind of like you're coming here, catching the ball this way. Is this kind of non-existent nowadays? Because I know the game's changed a lot.
Well, you're talking about the inside pitch to a right-handed batter,
yes.
And then
kind of like this, yeah.
Yeah, well,
outside
it's the
pitch.
same thing, but the idea here is we're starting from the bottom of the zone and at the bottom of the triangle. So here's the triangle, bottom of the triangle, and absolutely, if it's the inside pitch, we're coming in, we're catching, and we're bringing it back into the triangle. Kind of like the shaking of the hand, yes.
Yeah, okay.
But we're working it up and around. Well, I shouldn't say up and around because it's not a circle, it's a triangle. Bam. But it's the same idea, yes, absolutely.
So the glove angle is a little bit more like this than it is like this.
Well, I don't want to get into the glove angles because we're starting to get into like really detailed technique, which is probably something that's more at the, let's say, freshman level, where you really want to get into that. I think just the concept of being around and bringing that in, whether you're here or whether you're here or whether you're here. Now, I'm not a big fan of, right? But the exact positioning and where you're going to end up, I think is less important than just having the idea of we're working this from the below the triangle up and into the triangle. Okay? We just don't want to be over obvious about it and exactly what's that hand position. The idea is we want the concept, but we don't want to overfill them with too much detail on that. Okay? Eventually they'll get to that point a couple years down the road, 14 years old. Okay, any questions on the receiving?